Welcome to the Future Rideshare Millionaire Podcast. We are back. It is February 28th, and at 12 midnight tonight, you can make $12,000 in March. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. It's going to be the first thing that we talk about, but I'm going to tell you what else we're going to talk about. Hopefully we can get to all of these. I'm going to be moving very fast. So if you leave any comments, I will read them at the end. I won't stop in between to take note of them just because it's almost 9 o'clock and I have about 3 hours that I need to go get ready, eat some food, and go start my March Madness. That's what I should have called this, the March Madness with Uber and Lyft. So some of the topics we're going to cover today is there's a major update to Lyft rewards, and I'm going to break it down for you. It doesn't seem to be available everywhere, and even though I have the link that gives more information on it, when I go to their website, it's not there. So I think it's something they sent to certain markets specifically, and it's not for everyone. I've spoken to other drivers. They haven't seen it yet, but we'll get into it. We're also going to talk about Uber's crackdown on illegal immigrants and how that could impact us. Uber drivers will get forced training by a specific date. It's a little weird. Uber doesn't want to do it, but they're being forced. Uber launches campaign against insurance companies. Now this one I have a lot of passion for, so I can't wait to cover that. There's a new rideshare bill to establish unions for drivers. Going to get into that. I found this really cool device that allows, depending on your car model, it can turn your car into a self-driving car similar to like FSD. Not quite 100% the same, but it's some pretty cool tech and I want to share it with you. I promise you I'm not sponsored by them. Elon fires government officials that are related to the robotaxi. So of course we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Elon's plan for robotaxis coming to California very soon. You already know they're coming to Texas. We spoke about that last week. Now there's a plan for them to come to California, and it's something you really want to pay attention to, especially if you live in that region. I'm going to talk about a company that forces pretty much their employees to take Waymos instead of Uber. So we're starting to see a shift where, for one reason or another, and we'll get into the reasons, people are even like saying, hey, if you want the company to pay for your rides to here and there, this is the platform you got to use moving forward. So we're going to get into why. Waymo just hit a major milestone. We'll talk about what that milestone is. We might not get to these last three, but hopefully we do. There's a Waymo accident video. I'm going to check it out. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't even know what to tell you to expect. Waymos are now on highways. We'll get into some of that data and what that means for rideshare. And then there is an article that I have not read yet that just breaks down everything that we are supposed to know about Waymo so far this year, this week. So the first thing I want to do is talk about my March Madness with Uber and Lyft. So March is the busiest month in my market. We have St. Patrick's Day. We have Food and Wine Festival. We have Restaurant Week. One of those two. I always mix them up. One of those. There are multiple spring breaks going on, and there are multiple St. Patrick's Day. Charleston has their own St. Patrick's Day, and then Savannah probably has the biggest St. Patrick's Day in the Southeast. They probably rank like 3rd or 4th in the nation. And it's just going to be a good time to make money. It gets warmer. There's a lot more weddings happening. And I really want to take advantage of all of that income because I strongly do believe that hard times are going to be coming for all of us. Not to get too political, but the government is firing a lot of government workers. That's going to increase unemployment. We're potentially going to have to deal with tariffs, which will make things more expensive. There's a lot of data out there that shows that people are falling behind on their mortgages. They're falling behind on their car payments. They're falling behind on their credit cards. And a lot of the data that we're seeing now is very reminiscent and similar to the data of the 2008 crash. So I'm going to do my best to put myself in a position to insulate myself and my family from what's happening outside. And the best way I can do that is to be debt free. I believe that today is the best day to make money with Uber and Lyft. Even if we take everything I just said away about what the government is doing and how people are falling behind, every year since the pandemic, it's been evident that even without external forces, Uber and Lyft have been finding new ways to pay drivers less. With that alone, that should be motivating you to do exactly what I'm doing, which is paying off your debt, saving your money. Now, we have a lot of different pieces that are affecting us. And some of those pieces we'll talk about today, like self-driving cars, unemployment, the government. It's not just one thing that's going to hurt our pockets. It's a group of things that can affect us. So with this podcast, even though I'm strapped on time, I got to go out there and start driving. It's Friday night. It's important for me to relay this information to you guys, even though I'm busy. And this is the easiest way for me to do it. And if you don't have time to watch the full podcast, I have a clips channel. If you go on the main page, it's called FR Future Rideshare Millionaire Clips. I chop up clips from the podcast if you just want to go and watch specific ones, so you don't have to spend your whole time watching this entire podcast. But let's get into the first story, which is about the new update with Lyft rewards. All right, so this is I'll link it later after the podcast, because you're not going to be able to find this blog post unless they put it in your Lyft app. I had to find it in the Lyft app and then do some trickery to pull the link from it so that I could read it from my computer, because it's not available for everyone. But with Uber and Lyft, sometimes when they test things, they plan to release it if it's working, right? So I'm happy it's coming to my market. I'm gonna figure out a way to take advantage of it. But let me stop getting ahead of myself and let's just read it. So this is from February 25th, 2025. Introducing bigger, better rewards. So it says, and before I read it, before I read it, this is Lyft's press release. I don't want people thinking I'm a shill. So I want you to understand that Lyft is going to put the best version of this forward. But there are times where they implement new things in a way that looks nice, but it's actually so they can pay us less money. So I don't know what that is yet. I plan on testing these new things to see if it's better or worse than what we had before. But for right now, I'm just going to read the press release. Doesn't mean I buy all of it. I'm just sharing that information with you from their mouth, and then I'll interpret it and give my opinion on it. So it says, my earphones, hold on. All right. So it says, you deserve great rewards for all the great rides you give. That's why March 1st, I guess starting at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, March 1st, we're rolling out exciting changes to the Lyft Rewards program based on your feedback. Here's what to expect. Simplify the requirements to qualify. Just meet 4 goals and you're in. You'll earn points on every ride, no matter when you drive. I'm down with that. Points still unlock tiers and exclusive perks you already know and love. Super down with that. I really do like the bonuses you get from having like elite or platinum. I think it's way better than Uber's. The points you earn can be redeemed in the Lyft shop for new rewards like cash, gift cards, and car services. So this is pretty cool. We don't know what the ratio will be, and that's what's going to be very important. And I look forward to 5 a.m. tomorrow morning to figure it out. But the fact that you can use your points and trade it in for cash, that's cool. So add on top of that you can generate points whenever now. It's not just during certain time frames of the day. Those two things, surface level, without seeing how they're actually implemented, I think that's a huge win. I am such a performance-based person. As a manager, I believe in rewarding people who performed well. And I love being rewarded for my performance. And so, yes, you can make the argument that they should just pay better overall. That's fine. But even if they paid the best, I will always believe that people who outperform other people should be rewarded for it. I'm a capitalist, and that's just what I believe. I think that's okay. And I'm looking forward to seeing how I can take advantage of this for myself. And of course, teach you guys how to do it too. So make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to be driving from midnight until 12 noon Saturday. So I'm going to have experience with it. Maybe I'll try to put out a quick video to break it down for you guys, but we'll see. We'll see what time looks like. So here's what's new. It says, you told us that qualifying for Lyft rewards is confusing with too many things to keep track of, and it's frustrating to only earn points during busy hours. It sounds like they listened. So we've made big improvements to address that feedback. Qualifying is simple. We're getting rid of driver scores and complicated requirements. Now all you have to do is meet and maintain 4 goals, including rating, acceptance rate, cancellation rate, and safety flags. So the first thing that comes to my head is they do have some kind of arbitrary system where they weigh different metrics, and depending on what your numbers are in those metrics, they give you a total score. I believe that will be easier than what they're suggesting now. So while it's simpler, right, you have to hit all of these data points in order to keep your rewards here. But with the previous system, even if you failed at one particular data point, if you were good at other data points, they would raise your average score, right? So you still have a chance, even if you're not doing too great in one area. Now it looks like if you're failing in one of those areas, bye-bye. So while it might be a simplified version, it does look like it might be a harder version to maintain. Simplification is the ultimate complication. Never forget that. So it says, once you're in, you can focus on giving great rides and earning points. And let me say this, as someone who just became an elite driver this week, it is significantly easier to maintain elite status or platinum status than it is to achieve it. So sometimes I have to make a lot of sacrifices and take some rides I really didn't want to take. But I lost the battle so I can win the war. I use the rewards found in the elite tier so much that having it is financially better, right? I get 10% cash back on gas. I get more filters to use, which I make massive amounts of money using those filters. I'm going to make a dedicated video just to show that. And so a lot of drivers out there, they don't want to achieve elite because it's not easy. Maybe it's going to get easier now, but I know it's not easy. But I've made so much more money doing it. And then keeping it is easier because you're able to put yourself in a position to get the rides you want using those filters. So I am pro elite status. So here's a picture of what it would look like. You have the rating stats, your rating, your acceptance rate, cancellation rate, safety flags. Now here's the weird thing. This post says that acceptance rate is one of them. I saw a notification, and I need to go back and find it, that says that we'll no longer be using your acceptance rate to calculate your tier. I don't know if that's a mistake. I don't know if that's something specific to my market and therefore they haven't included it in this. But when I'm done going through this article, I'm going to see if I can go and find that picture. You know what? No, because I know I have ADHD and I'll forget to do it. So we're just going to go to X, Twitter, and we are, because I'm pretty sure I posted it. Follow me on X. It's Future Rideshare. I don't think that's what it is. Hold on. It's FR Millionaires, right? Future Rideshare Millionaire. Let me see if I can find it. The rewards. Here it is. So it's right here. It says driving score changes coming starting March 1st, tomorrow. Your driving score will only take into account cancellation rate, rating, and passenger feedback on safety and service. So that's 3. So I don't know what to believe. This is a notification I got in the app, and I'm comparing it to what this article is saying, and its acceptance rate is being shown right here. So I don't know. Tomorrow we'll obviously find out, and I'll let you know. But until then, so moving forward, it says earn points on every ride. Now you'll earn points for every ride no matter when you drive. Get 1 tier point for every dollar you earn, including tips, but not bonuses. That's how it's always been. And with a high acceptance rate, you can earn up to 3 points per dollar. So my mind broke because if they take acceptance rate out of the equation, how am I going to do that? So that makes me feel like they had a plan and then they're reneging on that plan. That's what I'm thinking is happening. So we're going to find out. So here's a picture. Let me see if I can blow this up for you guys. Open image in new tab. I'll zoom in so you guys can see. Yeah. All right, here we go. So it says, if you have less than 80% acceptance rate, $1 is only 1 point. If you have above an 80% acceptance rate, $1 is 2 points. And if you have above a 90% acceptance rate, $1 is 3 points. So all this week, because I knew this was going to happen, I've been preparing. I've been accepting majority of the rides, and I think I'm like very close to 90. I know that by 5 a.m. tomorrow, when March 1st starts for Lyft, I know that I will have above a 90%, and I'm going to be testing it while having 90%, seeing how much money each point is actually worth. Like if I can trade these points for cash, like what's that conversion rate look like? And I hope I'm not disappointed. To be fair, anything is better than nothing, but I don't want it to be a carrot on a stick that you expend more calories to obtain than the amount of calories it gives you, right? It needs to feel equitable. So we'll see what that looks like. The next, going back to Lyft's post, it says unlock tiers and exclusive perks. Tier points are the key to unlocking higher tiers. You can track your point progress throughout the qualifying period right in the driver app. When you unlock tiers, you'll get access to the exclusive perks you already know and love, and you can see how much you're earning or saving with each perk. So here's the tier points. It looks like there's a goal. I'm not sure what that goal is like who sets that goal? Do we set that goal, or is that like the goal to get to the next tier? I'm not sure. It says your platinum rewards for location filters, free Allstate. All right, we already know about that. How to redeem points for rewards. If you have tier status when the month ends, any tier points you earn will convert into shop points. Shop points can be redeemed for gift cards, car washes, oil changes, and cash in the new Lyft shop. Oil changes is cool. Car washes is cool. Gift cards, depending on what kind of gift cards, I guess, and the conversion rate. It's dope. It's dope, but it feels like they're just copying the credit card point system, which if it works, it works, but we'll see what that actual conversion looks like. It says you can redeem any new shop points starting on the first of the month or continue racking them up over time. Unused shop points expire after 1 year. I think that's very reasonable. So it looks like I can't use my points until the first of the next month, which, it's fine. So maybe I won't be able to test it until the end of March, which sucks because I'm really excited to see this. So this is a quote, I guess, from a driver. It says, "My points matter more now. I get useful rewards that I normally pay for out of my own pocket." Matthew S., elite driver. I wonder when they spoke to Matthew and got that quote from him. So here are some frequently asked questions, according to Lyft. What's a qualifying period? Qualifying periods begin on the first day of each month and on the struggling. Qualifying periods begin on the first day of each month and end on the last day of each month. During this time, you can earn points to unlock tiers at the beginning of each month. At the beginning of each qualifying period, tier points reset to 0. Okay. What happens if I don't earn enough points to qualify for silver by the end of the month? If you don't earn enough points to qualify for silver by the end of the month, any tier points you earn that month won't become shop points. However, you can still redeem any shop points you previously banked for rewards. Okay. What happens if I no longer meet all 4 goals for rating and stats? If you fall below any of the program goals, you'll enter into a 7-day grace period. If you improve your ratings and stats during the grace period, you'll keep access to the program and your current tier. If you don't meet all 4 goals when the grace period ends, you lose access to the program. So I think that's okay. I like the grace period. It gives you some time to do something about it. But that confirms what I said earlier, where if you fail at 1, you fail all, right? Before, you could fail at 1. I was common for failing at acceptance rate, but because I was good everywhere else, my overall grade was good enough to let me slide. That's not going to be the case anymore. So it's going to be a little harder, but there is a grace period and it is simpler. So you'll know what to expect ahead of time. The next FAQ, what happens to my points if I lose access to the program? If you don't have access to Lyft rewards when the month ends, any tier points you earned won't become shop points. That hurts. That burns. However, you can still redeem any shop points you've previously banked for rewards. So you could earn 4,000 points. Let's say that's $200 or something. If someone gives you bad ratings, like the final week, you're not going to get all those points. It's just disappear. So that's a little rough. It feels like high risk, high reward kind of. So you got to make sure you're on your P's and Q's. You got to make sure your customer service is fantastic. You got to make sure you're not canceling too much. They're not like the last week, the last 10 days of the month. It says to get back into the program, check the driver app to see which goals you need to meet. Do shop points expire? Yes, unused shop points expire after 1 year. I don't know if that's rolling. So I don't know if like March 1st, 2026 is when everyone's points expire, or if it's like your March points expire next year, March, your April points expire next year, April. So we'll see if we can figure that out. And then it says, are there terms and conditions for Lyft rewards? It says, yes, the Lyft driver rewards program is subject to Lyft terms of service and Lyft driver rewards teams terms and conditions. The program can be modified or terminated by Lyft at any time. Yay for transparency. I don't think I'm going to read through all of this. Here's what we'll do. I'm going to see if I can put this into AI. We'll use ChatGPT. Is there anything crazy in this TOS? We'll just see if there's anything insane we want to. What is this? A link, bro? It's not what I want. Copy. So let's see what it says. It says it's too long. I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I think I do have a solution. Right, give me 1 second, guys. We're going to use Notebook LM, which is by Google. Is there anything in this TOS that seems sketchy? All right, so it says several causes in Lyft's terms of service and privacy policy could be considered potentially unfavorable for users. Here's a breakdown. Arbitration agreement and class action waiver. Section 17 requires users to waive their right to a jury and submit claims against Lyft to binding arbitration on individual basis, preventing class actions. I don't care about this too much. I don't plan on being with Lyft very long. I know a lot of people do care about that, so you need to make sure you read up on that. Lyft has a right to modify the agreement. It says Lyft reserves the right to modify the terms of service and continue use of the platform. They kind of just said that. Charges and fees. Lyft has the authority to determine and modify pricing. Right, this just seems to be like regular TOS. Lyft collects various types of information, including data. We know that. I don't like this. It says you agree to indemnify and hold harmless Lyft from any claims arising from your use of the Lyft platform. Not a big fan of that. Okay, nothing crazy, or let me say this, nothing abnormal. This is crazy stuff, but normal stuff within Lyft and Uber's like policy. So we'll just move on to the next story, which is how Uber is cracking down on illegal immigrants. So this article says thousands of takeaway carriers banned from Uber in crackdown on illegal immigrants. Thousands of Uber Eats carriers have been sacked by the US technology giant or blocked from its app in a crackdown on illegal immigrant workers. Uber confirmed that it had blocked hundreds of rider accounts each month following an agreement with the Home Office last year to introduce stricter right-to-work checks. Delivery companies have been under pressure to tackle a rise in undocumented workers using their apps, abusing their substitution system. Under UK employment law, freelancers can allow a substitute to work in their stead. That's crazy. This is in the UK, but it is things that happen elsewhere tends to set a precedent for what can happen here. And we do know that Uber, DoorDash, food delivery apps are like a cesspool for illegal immigrants working. It does seem that this is a weird law where you can substitute someone and have them work on your behalf, but it looks like the UK is cracking down on that. And I think that for those of you who don't want illegal immigrants on the platform, this is a very good example of what you should be bringing to elected officials in where you live, or if you have unions where you live. This is a very good precedent to look at. It shows that Uber has some tools that they can use and that they are using across the pond, and we'll see what those tools are. So it says businesses including Uber Eats and Deliveroo have introduced tougher checks on riders using their apps. On Uber Eats, riders can be asked at random to provide selfie while they are working. We know about that. When setting up their accounts, couriers and their substitutes are also required to video-based check to make sure they have a legal right to work in UK. Robert Jenrick, a former immigration minister and now Shadow Justice Secretary, warned last year the substitute system was encouraging illegal migration and the exploitation of immigrant workers. He called on delivery companies to properly vet their workers and introduce stricter checks on new signups. In April last year, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, and Just Eat committed to reinforcing their checks, with their new policies coming into effect from August. Last October, police raided a rundown caravan site near Bristol, where dozens of undocumented workers had been living while working as delivery staff. Police said 17 people were arrested and 13 were taken to immigration detention centers. That's a lot. That is a lot. Imagine in your city if there are like suddenly just 17 less people doing Uber. You'll get some more surges. Well, depending on how big your city is. Charleston, I think that's a decent amount. Like Charleston on average has like, when it's slow, maybe 15 to 25 people on Lyft at the airport. Imagine if that like 20 was just 3 people, it can make a big difference. In January, the Telegraph revealed that as many as 1 million illegal migrants are believed to be working in the UK, according to a private study conducted by a water company. And this is to, Uber's advantage. They're able to charge abysmal rates because the immigrants, they require less to live, and that's just what it is. Deliveroo told MPs earlier this month it had so far sacked more than 100 workers after their substitutes failed to provide valid right-to-work documents. Deliveroo was the first company to introduce stricter vetting. It's understandable that Uber wasn't first to do it because, like I just said, they benefit from this. Meanwhile, Uber Eats has confirmed to the Telegraph that thousands of its own riders have been kicked off its app since the changes were announced last April. So it's interesting to see what's happening across the pond and why it's not really happening here. An Uber Eats spokesman said all carriers who use Uber Eats app, whether it is the account holder or their substitute, must undergo checks to ensure they are over 18 and have a legal right to work in the UK. If a courier has been flagged for any breach in our community guidelines, including unlawful or unsafe behavior, we investigate and take appropriate action to the account, including permanently removing access to the app. It's sad. It's not sad to say this, but we're just in the political climate where this is okay. People want this. People want illegal immigrants gone, and I feel like if drivers really want to push for this is the political climate in which you do it, and that's just That's just the truth. That's just what it is. And I'm not going to say more than that. So I personally, I don't care too much because I'm selfish and that I know my exit date from Uber and Lyft is coming. I know that hopefully, right? If things can go wrong, anything can happen. But my plan is to just, I don't think Uber and Lyft is a good long-term financial plan. Even if you take the immigrants out of it, I would still encourage you guys that this is not a great long-term plan. So for me, it doesn't matter too much to me. To any illegal immigrants who are watching, make your money how you can, do what you got to do, right? I understand it, but laws exist. If you get caught, things happen, and you're in America in a time where the political climate is just not in your favor. So it's just what it is. That's the end of that. So we're gonna move on to the next story. This one's gonna be on the forced training for Uber drivers. So the article title says Uber taxi drivers must get new training by April 1st. Hold on. Here we go. Rideshare and taxi drivers must take new training by April 1st. A new City of Edmonton bylaw will require rideshare and taxi drivers to take new mandatory training courses if they want to continue operating. So this is for the people who watch over there from Toronto. Toronto is definitely within the 5 top cities that watch my channel. So this is for you guys. And for you Americans who think this doesn't matter for you, it's always important to know what's happening in neighboring cities, because it's very common for cities to copy cities when they make laws. And this isn't something Uber wants. This is something the city of Edmonton wants. And I can see an overzealous government body, city council, putting this in New York. I can see them putting this in California. So this is something you want to pay attention to, because it'll show us the effects, right? It could be that rideshare drivers are like, nah, I'm not going to mess around with that training, and it might make it so that there's like more passengers for drivers. I don't know. We don't know. Let's read the story and find out. A training course needs to be completed through a dispatcher in charge of the drivers by April 1st, and a certificate of completion must be submitted to operate in the city legally. Confused? But let's continue. Lila, Director of Development, Approvals, and Inspections with the City of Edmonton, said the new training course is expected to take between 4 to 8 hours to complete, and includes modules covering topics of accessibility, customer service, safety, and responsiveness, as well as the city's vehicle for hire bylaw. That sounds extremely annoying. However, I can understand why people need to do this based off of what I have seen from other drivers. Customer service is lacking. They don't have the training for it, and they ultimately just want to get in their car and drive, call people on their phones, talk very loudly, play music while there's just a lack of customer service. And I can see how this could benefit people. I personally would be annoyed because I feel like I wouldn't need it. And I can understand that even drivers who are worse than me would probably also feel like they don't need it. I don't think Uber or the Uber drivers are happy about this. The new training was developed after a March 22 committee meeting in the Edmontons voiced their concerns with some of the challenges they were expecting. Things like assessing and using the vehicle for hiring service in Edmonton, is specifically for a lot of concern focused on safety and barriers for those with higher accessibility needs. It says it's redundant and time consuming. It's a classic municipal government red tape, making life more difficult for hardworking drivers. I agree. This is from a spokesperson from Uber. Sometimes I agree with them. Sometimes joining with Uber to fight certain things, it's okay, guys. I know we have disdain for them. I know they are cheating us out of money, but sometimes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. She said it's a big hassle for drivers spending a full workday getting a redundant training time they could be spending on the road. Rank says the city's new training takes 8 hours to complete, twice as long as any Canadian city, and includes information that is either redundant or outdated. Rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft have their own mandatory training modules, and Rank says the city's courses make you watch a long, old CBC video that doesn't reflect new features or updates. Oof. But that sounds exactly like the government. But I will say this, right? The more roadblocks there are between a driver and the driver making money, the more of an advantage the drivers who are willing to do it have, right? In certain cities, there are you have to register as a business to start doing Uber and Lyft. People who aren't willing to do that stuff, it keeps the driver pool low, versus in a city like mine, all you need is an inspection, right? If you have your inspection, you can go to Jiffy Lube and get it. You can become a driver. Now, in a city where you don't need an inspection, like Savannah, they're not going to do it. So for example, if someone in Savannah who doesn't need an inspection wants to come and drive to Charleston, they would then need an inspection in order to start driving here. Some people aren't going to do it, right? So it helps balance out the supply and demand of drivers. So I can see how this could be a roadblock that helps other drivers make a little bit more money, but nothing crazy. It doesn't seem like that much of a hassle. And I think that might be a problem where it's a roadblock that's just there for annoyance and nothing more. So we'll see. Rank said the city of Edmonton consulted with rideshare and taxi dispatchers before creating the training courses, but has seemingly ignored their concerns. It sounds like government. Peter, however, refutes some of these claims. She said the training will take between 4 to 8 hours, and drivers may not need more than 4 hours to complete the course if the material has been covered by a dispatcher's previous modules. She said the language and educational needs of drivers have been heavily factored into how we develop the training. While the city crafts the training, Peter says it's up to the dispatchers to deliver the training, either in person or online, in the manner that best serves their drivers. Here's the problem I'm having with a lot of government bodies. They're not even including drivers in these conversations. Like, you're including Uber, fine. Uber's a thing, sure. But why wouldn't you also speak to drivers? Like, I just don't understand it. They do that in Charleston too, and I just don't understand it. Peter says it's up to the dispatcher. We just read that. All right, so we'll follow up with this. We'll see. I'm sure I'll be able to find drivers talking about this once it's implemented. And once we do, I'll relay that back to you guys. So let's see what else we got. All right, so this one is one very passionate about. It's about insurance. And if you've been here before, you know that I think that insurance is one of the things that can drastically increase our income if we can figure out how to approach it. This one's a video, so we're just gonna watch it.
Well, just take a look at this receipt from a recent Uber ride I took. It cost just about $28. Well, just take a look at this receipt from a recent Uber ride I took. It cost just about $28 for just under 4 miles, and that was before the tip. Uber says more than 30% of that ride and the rides you take in California go to pay directly for insurance.
So Uber has been on a campaign. They've been doing it for a while. They noted that Uber has to pay more in insurance compared to anyone out there, right? Let me show you an email that Uber actually sent to drivers. Thinking, how can I do this? Oh, we're not going to do it. I'm in a rush, so I'm not going to do it today. I've shown it before, but I do need to get through these stories, so we'll just continue.
The rideshare giant says that's simply too expensive and hurts everyday passengers and even drivers. And now they hope to bring awareness of the issue to you and to state leaders.
Join our fight to protect your access to affordable rides.
You're looking at Uber's brand new $1 million ad campaign set to appear on social media and digital platforms in 4 states, including California.
Everything is getting more expensive.
In the Golden State specifically, the campaign aims to spread awareness and express concerns over what Uber describes as high insurance costs it has to pay in California.
Uber even told some drivers in California that if you're willing to get your own commercial insurance, we will pay you more. And if I had that option, I would jump on that option. I've already done the math. Even if you have to pay $800 for commercial insurance and they pay you $1 more per ride because you have your own commercial insurance, once you drive 800 miles for the month, the rest you own is profit, right? Of course, you hope you don't get into an accident, but even if you do, it's just you have insurance, you'll be fine. If the problem is that the states are mandating how much insurance we have to have. And when you have state mandates like that, insurance companies can say, okay, you have to have this insurance. We're going to charge you whatever we want, right? So we need some more, we need the government to strip some of that regulation or to give us the ability to go and have our own commercial insurance. That's really what needs to happen. And if we can get the conversation to move in that direction, I'm for that. So this is an example of when the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? I'm for this, and I've been here for a very long time. I've been talking about these insurance things ever since Uber and Lyft started becoming more transparent about the percentage breakdowns when you guys were calling me shills. But if we can get this moving forward, this is a way that it could impact our income in a way that's favorable, and passengers might pay less. Might, of course, there are ways Uber can screw us over in the trade-off, right? They could say, all right, drivers, you go out there, you get your own commercial insurance, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to make the ride so cheap for passengers that you're not going to be able to afford your commercial insurance. Ha, 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 ha. That's something they could do, right? and it sounds crazy if you're new here, but Uber has been known to do things like that. So yeah, there are ways that Uber could still take advantage of us with this fight. But I think that if we jump on board of this fight, we can fight for the land that makes sense for us, right? So I'm approving of this so far.
Costs Uber feels it has no choice but to pass down to passengers.
I saw the price breakdown and I was shocked. Insurance has been taking more and more.
Insurance costs have gone up significantly, and that is obviously to the detriment of the rider that must pay for it ultimately.
Adam.
And I called this, right? I was tussling with drivers. I said, why are you guys still blaming Uber for the insurance? Like they would look at, oh, I only get 30%, Uber is taking the rest. No, be specific. You only get 30%, insurance is taking 20%, and Uber is taking the rest. Like, yes, we can still fight Uber for their rest, but if you want accurate results, we're gonna have to assign accurate blame. We can't just blame Uber for the insurance costs. Some of that is mandated. Some of that is because they are forced to do so. So like, I've been fighting for this transparency for so long, and people were like, okay, once you get this transparency, what happens next? Like, it just gives us something to work with. And now that we've had that transparency, we have something to work with. So I'm super excited, if you can't tell, about this.
Is Uber's Senior Director for Policy and Communications in the United States and Canada. He says he recognizes insurance is necessary under the law to cover accidents. But he adds mandates in California have resulted in rideshare coverage costs coming out to approximately 30 times higher for rideshare companies like Uber than personal vehicles.
That's insane. And even if you compare the commercial insurance that Uber is forced to pay, it's still significantly more than the commercial insurance other companies have to pay.
And 10 times higher for Uber than taxis. To accommodate for that, Uber says in cities like Los Angeles, up to 45% of a rider's fare could go to insurance costs.
I don't like the word could here, doing a lot of heavy lifting, but that's an insane stat.
While in other metro areas like Washington, D.C., where fewer regulations are in place, just 5% of the average ride goes to insurance. Uber says that means in D.C., overall, cheaper rides. The company also notes leaders...
See, and that's how they can take advantage of us, where they're saying, hey, we offer cheaper rides because insurance is cheaper, instead of, hey, we pay drivers better because insurance is cheaper. You know, so we have to get our own voice in this battle. It can't just be Uber versus government. It needs to be Uber versus driver versus government versus passenger. That's what it really needs to be.
In other states like Arizona have already taken action to lower such costs. They want to see California do the same.
You can have very robust coverage, which is, we think,
I'm gonna look into that. That's the first time I've heard about it. Arizona lowering rideshare insurance costs. Let's see what they're saying about it. If I can find anything. I don't see anything. This might be something that didn't break news, but Uber is aware of behind the scenes. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for it.
And a rightful one, without burdening the system unnecessarily and creating costs that all consumers then have to pay.
Uber alleges many personal injury attorneys know about Uber's high insurance requirements and have taken advantage of the situation by aggressively targeting rideshare companies with frivolous claims, inflated medical bills, and excessive settlements. As more payouts are required of insurance carriers, the rideshare companies they insure incur higher costs, which per Uber results in higher rideshare fares for consumers.
It really does.
So I haven't shared this information yet. I shared that. So I got into an accident about a year ago. You guys know about that. The lady is suing my insurance company, or Lyft's insurance company. And I do have an itemized, bill of why they're suing. And what they're saying here is true. Because lawyers know that there is a $1 million liability policy, that's what they target every single time. So I'm gonna see if I can pull it up real quick. Going through my email to look for it. Now I gotta make sure I don't put too much information out there, like personal information. So give me a second. Almost done. Okay, I got it. Before I show you, I'm gonna show you the breakdown, but I'm gonna read what the other part says that I can't show you. It says, my client demands payment of the bodily injury policy limits of your insured, which is $1 million. Once you have an opportunity to review the enclosures, please contact me within 14 days so that we can hopefully resolve this matter. So I don't know what they've done, but let me show you the breakdown of what they're claiming she had to go through in an accident where her car was barely scratched. Barely scratched. All right, so here it is. Finally got it to work. All right, so they're claiming $15,000 in money was spent between health clinic, physical therapy, health imaging, urgent care, primary care, radiologists, medical centers, right? They're claiming all of that she had to spend money on. And I assume she has receipts, probably. Maybe the lawyer talked her into going doing this. But like, I have seen crazy stories where like you've even seen the ads where people are just like suing because they know there's a mandated policy. And because of that policy and because Uber doesn't want to take it to court because it could actually become more expensive, they just settle. And that's affecting the insurance premiums. So I'm sorry, guys, I'm affecting your insurance premiums, but only because of how it's mandated and how people are taking advantage of the system.
LA-based Uber driver Stephen Hanks says the situation is not only hurting the bottom line of passengers, but also drivers like him losing out on business.
There's definitely a slowdown. It costs more for everyone.
You'd like to see the state leaders do something.
I would absolutely love to see state leaders do something about it. People use Uber for the necessities, and you know, that price has gone up.
And we reached out to the Capital City Trial Lawyers Association and other similar groups about any possible opposition to Uber's campaign, but we have not heard back as of news time. Reporting at the state capitol, covering local news that matters, Eitan Wallace, Fox 40 News.
I'm super for this. This on autoplay. Yeah. So I hope this spreads. I hope that drivers start jumping onto this conversation in a way that matters, and we will continue moving forward. I have a hard cutoff at 10. I'm leaving, so I got to eat, shower, and get ready, and drive to downtown so I can start my March Madness. So let's see what we got next. So there's a new rideshare bill to establish unions for drivers. This is important. I assume this is gonna be a news story that we need to keep updated with. So I don't want to skip over this one. So it says Minnesota rideshare drivers push for bill that would create a pathway to unionize. If you've been here long enough, you know my history with Minnesota and what they have going on. They let me get you up to speed if you don't know what's going on. So last year, the city council put out some bill and information where they wanted to establish a minimum wage for drivers. Throughout that process, I had the unpopular opinion that putting that minimum wage into effect would have a negative impact on drivers because of supply and demand. People disagreed with me and called me a shill for Uber and Lyft. And the bill went into effect, I think, in December of 2024. And we last week covered a news story where a bunch of drivers were saying that it's not working as they thought it would, and they're actually making less money. My opinions aren't because I want to be right. My opinions are because I'm trying to be accurate. I'm trying to apply the knowledge that I have to a specific situation and come to a conclusion that is accurate, not because I want it. I don't want them to make less money, but I saw that there were flaws in how they were calculating their minimum wage. I broke down the math in front of all of you live. You guys didn't care, and now those drivers are suffering. So here they are. They're trying something new. They want to combat what has happened to them by forming a union. And let's see how this will progress. I don't know where I stand on it yet. So let's see what information we'll find out and learn. Rideshare drivers are asking the Minnesota legislature to allow them to unionize months after new protections and pay requirements brokered last year took effect in December. Supporters touted the provisions of that law as the strongest in the nation, and it represented a deal that kept Uber and Lyft from pumping the brakes on service in the state. They had threatened to do so in the wake of a separate local Minneapolis ordinance which statute overrides. But now, drivers hope state lawmakers shift gears and allow them to collectively bargain directly with the rideshare companies for pay and benefits in the future. They are classified as independent contractors, not employees, which means they do not have the right to unionize under the current federal and state laws. This proposal would create an exception, supporters said Tuesday, and it would not change their status to employees and also wouldn't impact their independent contractors in the state. I think a lot of the drivers I talk to, I know they don't want to be employees. They don't want to have to be told when to work. They don't mind being independent contractors, but they do want some employee protections like pay time off, or there's other stuff. I'm burning out here, so I can't even. I'm not gonna go through them. But in a hybrid model, they want to be able to be independent contractors and be able to bargain with Uber and Lyft. I think that that's okay. I think that it's weird that independent contractors aren't allowed to unionize. Unionize might not be the great term, but there should be something similar to it that allows independent contractors to come together and bargain with Uber. I don't see that as an issue. I think that that's okay so far, right? Now you could have bad unions and you could have good unions. So this isn't enough information for me to determine if this is a good or bad idea. Overall, I think that independent contractors should have some type of organizational structure that they can use to push back against certain entities. I think that's okay. Being able to have a union would mean we could have a voice to stand up for fair pay and benefits and have a say in our workplace. Uber, in a statement, noted that Minnesota's law provides some of the highest pay standards in the country. Under the law, drivers are paid a minimum rate of $1.28 per mile and 31 cents per minute, which DFL leaders said last year amounted to a 20% pay increase. But Tristan, you just said that's not true. The law also requires the rideshare companies to contract with a driver advocacy organization to help with the activation appeals and outreach about drivers' rights. Uber works with the Confederation of Somali Community to fulfill that requirement. Over the last few years, drivers, rideshare companies, and legislators work collaboratively on addressing what drivers themselves establish as their own priorities. It is not constructive to have late to the game parties show up to risk what's been achieved to advance their own interests, an Uber spokesperson said. Of course, Uber is going to say that, and I don't agree with Uber because it's in their interest for this not to happen. Lyft did not respond to the request for comment on the proposal. That's Lyft-like. The legislation is still in the process of drafting, but its authors say it will resemble the framework in Massachusetts, the first state to allow rideshare drivers to unionize after voters there last fall approved the ballot measure. So it was voted on last fall, went into effect in January, and I covered some stories about it, but nothing crazy has become of it yet, but I expect that it will. So we'll see how that develops over there. I do know Boston also implemented their own minimum wage. And one of my friends over on X, Matt, he's one of the hosts for the Drivers Coast to Coast group over there. He notes that since that went into effect, he's also not getting as many rides as he was before. And he's not seeing as many surges as he was before. So those policies did pass, and I think we all stand behind it. They're very good for our drivers, said bill author Zen Mohammed of the law that just took effect last year. But moving forward, what does it look like 5 to 10 years from now? Are those folks going to come every year and ask for legislators to do a pay increase, or are we giving them the power to be able to negotiate with the companies? Of course, the city council members think they did a great job, but they didn't. It's future this year in the legislature, though, is uncertain. Last year, Democrats along party lines approved the deal in the final hours of session when they controlled both chambers. Now, the legislature is divided. Democrats have a majority in the Senate, and Republicans have a one-seat advantage in the state house that could be tied after a special election next month. This is for Minnesota, not the entire government. The makeup of the Capitol will force both parties to pass Bartesian priorities before the session ends. All right, so we'll just have to see how this goes and see what happens. But overall, I support the idea of drivers being able to come together and do something collectively. I think that's fair, whether they're employees or independent contractors. I think that's okay. But we are in the political climate where deregulation is what happens. So be aware of that too. Now, let me see. We have limited time, so let me see what we should focus on here. Let's do a little bit of Elon. Right? We're actually not doing too bad on time. We'll try to get through these quickly. So this next one is, oh no, we have to talk about this one first. All right, dang. Okay, all right, you know what? This can wait. This one can wait, and we'll do, okay. Uber launches waitlist for Waymo in a new city, right? This is important. It affects driver pay, so I think we should cover this one. And I know a lot of drivers out there aren't worried about self-driving cars, but I'll be able to look back at this and say I told you so. I won't be happy that I have to do it. Listen to me. So it says Uber launches interest lists for users to ride in Waymo cars. But where? Ride service Uber opened an interest list on February 5th for Austin users to join if they would like to ride in a Waymo autonomous car instead of a standard rideshare vehicle, according to a Waymo spokesperson. Both companies announced last year they partnered to bring joint services to Atlanta and Austin in early 2025, according to a news release. Under the partnership, Uber will dispatch Waymo cars to clients and clean them, while the autonomous car company will be in charge of testing the vehicles and providing roadside assistance. So just like in Phoenix, people in Austin will be able to order a Waymo through the Uber app, where 50% of people who are offered a Waymo in the Uber app pick the Waymo. But don't be worried. There's nothing to worry about here. Partnering with Uber to serve riders in Austin will allow us to scale our technology quickly, while offering improved road safety, increased accessibility, and another sustainable transportation option to Austin travelers. That is also where Tesla is launching their first robotaxis. However, Bonelli said that an official launch date has yet to be determined. He said the interest list serves as a way for clients to receive updates once Waymo rides become available with Uber. The list increases one's chance of getting to ride in one of the self-driving cars when the partnership officially launches, he said. Riders interested in getting picked up by a Waymo can Riders interested in getting picked up by a Waymo car can access the interest list through the Uber app by clicking on the settings page and then changing their riding preference to autonomous vehicles according to the Uber website. Hannah, a microbiology junior, said she has taken an Uber in the past to travel to the airport. She said autonomous cars offer benefits to certain groups. They could be helpful for accessibility reasons for people who don't know how to drive or can't drive in the first place. How is that different? It's not really. Okay. She says she used to live in the Houston suburbs and I would always be in my house because I didn't know how to drive. Autonomous cars could be helpful with that. Yes, but like non-autonomous cars can be helpful with that too. So I didn't learn anything just now. Despite expanding services, Waymo is under investigation by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration for various incidents that resulted in crashes or fires, according to a report from the agency. I wonder if Elon Musk has something to do with that. Bonelli said the company is committed to working with the administration to solve these issues. Sophia Westmoreland, a political communications and Plan 2 sophomore, said she would like there to be more testing to ensure the vehicles are safe before riding in a Waymo car under the Uber partnership. Self-driving cars are not always reliable because it's a code rather than human, but I also know the argument that it can save lives because it's a computer. I'm not going to be mean. Westmoreland said if it was a short drive, I don't think I'd have any arguments against riding in one. That is a good take. That is an okay take. All right. So if you're interested in signing up for Waymo, go ahead and try it. If you're a driver and you're in Austin, even if you don't want to, you need to go and put yourself on that list because you need to know the day they start accepting passengers, right? It's going to change your strategy. It's going to change your market. Don't be oblivious to this. And even if you think I'm wrong, as someone who's running a business, you need to be aware of what the competition is doing, whether it's failing or succeeding, right? You need to, if you think I'm wrong, you need to be able to prove that I'm wrong. If you think I'm right, you need to be able to prove that I'm right because it's going to affect you. Don't just turn a blind eye to it. Be aware of what's going on. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next. We could do some Elon stuff. All right, I'm going to save the Elon stuff for next week. No, you know what? No, because this is actually very important, especially for the people living in California. This is actually really important to cover. Oh, there's just so much news happening so fast. Okay, so this, I'm trying not to get in trouble. I'm trying not to start any beef, but I do think that it's really important for drivers who live in California to pay attention to everything. It's from the Washington Post. It says Elon Musk Tesla moves to launch free self-driving taxi service in California. Free. The move is a key step in the CEO's ambitions to offer an autonomous ride-hailing service. This is from yesterday at 2:25, February 27th. Elon Musk Tesla is preparing to launch a taxi service in California that could eventually shuttle paying passengers in autonomous vehicles around the state, according to emails obtained by the Washington Post. Tesla submitted late last year an application to the California Public Utilities Commission for a permit to transport passengers in its vehicles, according to the emails obtained via a public records request. The company has permissions to test its driverless vehicles in the state with a human behind the wheel, but the additional permit, if granted, would allow people to summon the vehicles from Tesla for free of charge. I was going to skip one of the stories, and now I'm going to take a break from this story because I have to show you this, like, I have to show you the connection. Like, and I called this. I told you, I made a video where I said, all right, no matter who becomes the president, we're going to evaluate what could change. And I said that the Trump administration is very pro deregulation. And Elon has his hands holding Trump's hand and has access to some of this stuff. And like you might think I'm being conspiratorial here, but this article will illuminate the point I'm trying to make right now. They're making me sign in. Hold on. It's giving me a hard time. Hold on. I can't skip over this. I have to show you guys this article, or is you guys just gonna think I'm crazy? Here it is. Title reads: Officials fired at traffic safety agency investigating Musk's company. The person who, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's on purpose, right? Musk has been going around and firing a bunch of people, but that is to say that Musk is in a position to positively influence outcomes that are sustainable to his goals. And the only reason I'm pointing that out is because it co-signs what I said about the Trump administration prioritizing deregulation